So we can say that everything is art. I mean, it was long time said that everybody can be an artist, which is of course true, but in the same time it is taking responsibility of your action. I think it is good to constantly fight this idea of what, or definition, what something needs to be, because that is imposed. Because art is not only everything that we can imagine what it could be, it's bigger than that.
You're from Sarajevo. How does your work intertwine with this city, with its complex history?
Well, the place where I was born, in Sarajevo, very much determined my life, unfortunately because of the war. And the fact that I survived the war in besieged city of Sarajevo. More than 20 years ago, I made a project, very small one, like small intervention in a space called Homesick. Of course, it refers to the nostalgia of the place where you belong, your home, this idea of security that you have. But in the same time, there is also this captivity, something that holds you and actually keeps you grounded in a very negative way. That very much answer to this question, like what the home is. It is a place where you turn to, but it's also a place that you have to distance yourself from.
You have lived through war. You have responded to that through your entire career. So what is, in your opinion, the future of Europe, knowing what you know?
The wars that are constant proves us that we don't learn. I am a war survivor, and it is difficult for me to see that in Europe we have a new war. Everybody is so strict in their own opinions and don't allow themselves to understand that the world is not a black and white. There are many gray shades in between, and that we all have a very complex single narratives as a human being. So also in the war, in aggression, there is so many sides, and this polarization actually is distracting us from coming up with a solution.
The status of women and the work they do should be the subject of a debate about the modern economy and gender policy. But what is it in reality?
We need to fight the system which comes from the centuries of oppression of women and undermining the labor of women. I try to also understand that and work with that. And I was very interested in using the handwork, needlework, in particular crocheting. I learned to crochet during the war, again in this besieged situation or in captivity, and the handwork actually helped me, the needlework helped me just to calm myself. It was almost therapeutic. I understood that basically this repetition, this circling, actually it is a behavior of that is typical to animals and humans in captivity. You go in a circle, you go around. From that idea and emotions and thinking came the work or the ongoing series Hooked. But what was also interesting, and what I also insist in telling, is that basically women invented a decoration so they could buy themselves time. They didn't have the luxury and the privilege and didn't have freedom to educate, to learn, to do different things that men could do. They were exploited, and then by creating something useful for the house, like some decoration, and more the decoration started to be developed. Actually, that's how they bought more time, not only to creatively express themselves, but also to gather and to exchange the knowledge, the stories, to educate themselves, to have the comfort of the company of other women. In the same time, men again took that from them and started exploiting that labor, and that's what we see now in the fashion industry in a very visible way of like this handwork and what does it mean. Understanding these positions and understanding our history is very important when we talk about the labor now and what we do as an artists in society that still needs a lot of corrections to be able to even speak about equality.